we're gathered here today to talk about climate action, competitiveness and taxation. But I cannot start talking about substance before saying a few words on what has been on our minds for the last weeks, the truly devastating and deadly rainfalls in beautiful Valencia. So I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest solidarity with all of those families who have lost relatives and with the many, many citizens who have lost home and livelihood. This truly is a tragedy. Mesdames et Messieurs les Présidents,
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege for me to be here before you once again. It's an honor to have been Commissioner for this past year, and I would like to share with you today the roadmap for climate taxation that I'd like to implement over the course of the coming 5 years, if you give me your trust. First of all, I'd like to warmly thank you all for the excellent cooperation and support that I've received from you since my start in office. When it comes to leadership and guidance, it's been very useful to have you there for my work, and this Assembly has played a decisive role in ramping up work to combat climate change and maintain industrial competitiveness.
Mesdames et Messieurs les députés,
Ladies and gentlemen, throughout my youth, my parents and grandparents allowed me to discover various places in Europe. I had the privilege to live in Italy, France, Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands. And at every place in the European Union where I spent time, I felt and saw at first hand our common values. Values such as cooperation, solidarity, peace and prosperity. I also noted the cultural richness and diversity, and if I'm confirmed, I will continue to defend these values in a resolute fashion.
Because the signs of the time we live in are clear. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, the backsliding of the rule of law, attacks on democracy itself, all remind us that our common values are unfortunately not a given. Europe faces fundamental challenges, clearly in the geopolitical domain, clearly climate change, innovation and technological disruption, and a wide range of other issues. And many of these, unfortunately, will stay with us for decades to come. And I would love to serve to make Europe ready for the future. Honourable members, please allow me to outline my vision on climate action. Science is crystal clear. Climate change will result in rising sea levels, increased flooding, threaten our food supply, our life and our human health and infrastructure. And we cannot wait. We have a responsibility for today and most importantly for the generations to come. And if we want to do this well, we do need to address 4 core elements: climate action, competitiveness, a just transition, and of course also the international dimension. We need to strengthen climate action, and I am firmly committed to staying the course. The co-legislators have set the roadmap to follow to bring down emissions through ambitious climate objectives for 2030 and of course 2050. And what I will do is table a targeted legislative proposal to enshrine a net 90% emission reduction target for 2040 in the European climate law. And I will also bring forward proposals for the post-2030 climate policy framework to enable a predictable, a fair and a cost-efficient transition beyond 2030. The consequences of climate change are regrettably already felt everywhere on the continent. From the floods this year in Spain, as I said, in Central Europe and Northern Italy, to wildfires in Greece and in Portugal. And we need to better prepare ourselves for such devastating events because unfortunately we'll see more of it. we will need to improve the climate resilience of our societies and of our economies. And therefore I will drive forward a European climate adaptation plan in line with the President's political guidelines and build on the climate risk assessment we published earlier of this year. It is about saving lives and saving livelihoods. And it also makes total economic sense to ensure that our assets and investments are actually climate change proof. Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm of the firm conviction that you can't have competitiveness without climate protection measures, and you can't have climate protection measures without competitiveness. And to achieve these goals at EU and world level, we have to achieve decarbonisation in Europe in a faster fashion. Market measures can allow us to achieve that goal. We have fantastic small, big and medium-sized companies across numerous sectors. Our industries are ready to invest in a clean industrial future. And we can see this because the Innovation Fund is oversubscribed. We have to help them to reach the climate goals that we have agreed on together. In my first 100 days, I'll work together with my colleagues on a clean industrial deal to foster competitiveness. And with this deal, we want to provide the enabling conditions for affordable energy and clean investments. And here I see several building blocks. For example, supporting industrial decarbonisation, enabling industries access to sufficient and affordable energy, promoting clean technologies, incentivizing investment and leading markets and boosting skills. And we need to make sure that for our industries there is a level playing field.
Honourable members, the vast majority of our citizens are concerned about climate change and they feel firsthand the consequences of it. But they're also worried about the cost of the transition. A prospering economy is therefore essential for citizens to be able to access important elements in life: security, a home, good working and living conditions, and affordable healthcare. So our Just Transition framework needs to be ready for the next stages of the climate transition. Among others, through a successful rollout of the Social Climate Fund, vulnerable households and micro-enterprises will also benefit from the transition. Honourable members, one thing is clear. The EU cannot solve the climate challenge alone. We can only continue to lead by example if we also bring the others along. That is the reality we face at a global stage. We account for only 6% of global emissions, and yet we will have to make sure that the other 94% are being tackled as well. So therefore we need to be more assertive about our expectations towards the rest of the world. And there is a clear imperative, and it is only fair to ask more from China, the US and other large emitters. At COP28, of course, the focus will be on climate finance and the new collective quantified goal. The geopolitical situation is, of course, grim, and that will have an impact on COP29 and on our climate diplomacy. But this cannot be an excuse for inaction. What we need is more leadership, more assertiveness, and more cooperation. And I will contribute to setting our global climate and energy vision ahead of COP30 to raise ambitions globally. Promoting carbon pricing and carbon markets globally is at the heart of our diplomatic effort. Rolling out our carbon border adjustment mechanism will also enhance this effort. And this will prevent carbon leakage for our industries and encourage others to start pricing carbon. Honourable members, it is a great privilege and a huge opportunity to be asked to also take responsibility for taxation. This is an issue close to my heart, because taxation is, if you will, the engine through which we pay for everything we find meaningful. And how we do this how we do this says a lot about what we together consider fair. Especially in times of, unfortunately, growing inequalities, we need to ensure that the broader shoulders carry the heavier load. Our tax systems must keep up with the developments of economies and societies, and therefore it is important to ensure that new kids on the block, like tech companies, pay their share, as do traditional industries and enterprises. That our tax systems facilitate rather than hamper our climate transition. Actually, if you look at it, many of the tax files on the table do have a clear link to climate. And almost all of the files have a link to competitiveness, directly or indirectly. Let me recall the rules and context of the EU treaties. Whether we like it or not, and I know there are different opinions in this House, Member States have the leading role in most of the files related to taxation. I acknowledge that. And if I am confirmed as Commissioner, I will work towards EU tax initiatives to help Europe's competitiveness, its prosperity, and, extremely important, its social fairness. And I would also like to focus on the greening taxation, closing the tax gap, simplification, and pursuing the work that is there to be done internationally. I firmly believe in greening taxation. I'm deeply convinced that taxation can support the objectives of a clean transition. And I hope to close with your help the negotiations on the Energy Taxation Directive. And I would also like to explore other ways to help the transition, for instance, by further greening our VAT system. Because taxation actually can be a key pricing instrument for driving climate goals and strengthening our European unity. Importantly, I also want to help close the tax gaps. We have had quite some success so far in closing the VAT gap. We can and should do more in this domain and show the similar ambition in all other areas, because this can be highly profitable for both the taxpayers and the companies in the European Union. Implementing and enforcing the EU direct tax legislation is therefore key. And I also want to continue the fight against tax fraud, tax evasion, and tax avoidance. We can help member states to fix this, and we should. Of course, in the last 5 years, an unprecedented number of ambitious legislative proposals were delivered. And some of the notable examples are the Minimum Tax Directive, implementing Pillar 2 on the OECD agreement, and the VIDA, adopted by ECOFIN just last week. Simplification, as I mentioned, will also be a key part of my priorities. Streamlining in the area of exchange of information, like the Directive of Administrative Cooperation and Aggressive Tax Planning, can actually help reduce the administrative burden and make the system more efficient. And that is absolutely essential. It doesn't mean lowering the bar, it should mean making life easier and simpler for all. Last but not least, I want to enhance the work done internationally, both at the OECD and at the UN level. Greening our economies and dealing with the digital and platform economy is a global challenge. It's not just a European thing. And we need to engage with the Global South and developing countries and push the implementation of the OECD Pillar 2 framework and to continue the work on the negotiations on Pillar 1. This is critical. This is critical to clamp down aggressive tax planning by large groups of companies. And I will remain fully committed to a multilateral approach to digital taxation. We've also done great work in promoting international tax good governance globally. Honourable chairs and honourable members, in the years ahead we face truly critical challenges. And I feel we have a collective responsibility to fight climate change, to help businesses, help citizens manage this transition. Together we can build a better future for our Europeans. And together we can protect and defend and enhance the shared values and ensure a prosperous future for all of us. Together we can lead the change and bring other nations along. And together we can turn taxation into an essential tool for ensuring fairness. Together, we can actually overcome any obstacle. And we will emerge stronger, ensuring a future where peace, prosperity and freedom are there to be had for all. Thank you.
Grazie commissario.